Guys, welcome back to True Crime with Shannon, where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. I'm going to finish getting caught up from Thursday's testimony in the trial against Angela Pollina and the Friday's testimony so that we're all caught up this weekend so that Monday we can continue to follow this case in getting justice for little beautiful Tommy. All right, and there is a picture of beautiful little Thomas Valva. And again, we have Newsday, who I always appreciate their amazing coverage, as well as Patch. And again, we're finishing up Thursday's testimony because the updates were not completely set. There's a number of teachers that testified on Thursday afternoon. Several other teachers of both Thomas and Anthony testified Thursday, describing the students as always hungry, appearing emancipated and cold, and coming to school with injuries, including a blooded nose, bruises, and cuts. One of Thomas's teachers, Michelle Cagliano, said she once got a call from Pollina after giving Thomas a pear and crackers when he complained of being hungry. She was very, very upset with me. He was expletive his pants all morning and she had to clean it up, Cagliano said. Jennifer Hollowbrow, a third grade teacher who also cried while testifying about watching Anthony, who she called a math star, eat crumbs left over from other students. He began refusing to get off the school bus in the mornings, Hollowbrow said, because he had struck a deal with Angela. If he refused to get off the bus and he kicked and he screamed and she would take him to Chuck E. Cheese. What is wrong with her? Seriously. Lead prosecutor Carrie Ann Kelly also showed the jury photographs that Schneider took of Thomas in November 2019 with what Schneider described as a deep laceration above his right eye and another cut on his left cheek, which of course we mentioned that in yesterday's video. And he continues to say that he thinks the boys looked worse in person. And Schneider said that he and the boys' teachers filed reports with Child Protective Services regarding those injuries and other instances of the boys complaining of being hungry and cold. And the children's conditions would improve briefly before the problems would reoccur. So basically they would make reports to CPS, get the parents involved, and things would briefly improve and then go right back to the way they were. It says that they also flooded the local CPS hotline to try to shake it up after the problems continued, including Anthony coming to school in urine-soaked clothing. During cross-examination, Toohey attempted to distance his client from any parental role, and we talked about this yesterday. So his client, Mr. Toohey, Matthew Toohey, the attorney, tried to say, well, she had nothing to do with parenting of these three boys. And wrong answer. So the principal quickly shot that down in court and said, that's not true. Whenever we called Matthew, Mr. Valva, he said, oh, hang on, I got to get my upcoming wife on the phone. Their stepmom, and before I could even talk to you. So yeah, that's just a bunch of crap. Let's see. When asked by Toohey if Pollina was a good mom to her daughters, one of whom Edwards had taught, Edwards answered, buying things and getting her hair done doesn't make her a good mother. I like that. That's a good one. After testimony wrapped on Thursday, Pollina appeared agitated while speaking to Toohey. They had food, she said to her attorney. So basically, Thursday was all about the teachers and the principal. I hope these teachers don't have to keep reliving this any longer. This poor little fella on the screen, he didn't deserve any of this, and neither did his brother. So let's move on to today's testimony, Friday, as I record this. Thomas Valva told school psychologist, that he and his brother were forced to sleep in the garage, witness says in Angela Pollina trial. So this would be Friday's testimony, and I will play their brief video from Newsday TV momentarily here. Thomas Valva's school psychologist sobbed on a Riverhead witness stand Friday as she recalled how the 8-year-old boy told a child protective service worker that he and his brother were forced to sleep in a garage and go to the bathroom in the backyard of their Center Moriches home. Yeah, this particular portion where Thomas told her and CPS, this sticks with me like nothing else. Truly, it does. Thomas asked for help. He truly did. Thomas's revelation came less than a year before he died from hypothermia. Renee Eminem, a psychologist at the East Moriches Elementary School, testified Friday at the murder trial of Angela Pollina, who was the fiancée of Thomas's father, ex-NYPD officer Michael Valva. Thomas had said he and Anthony sleep in the garage, said Eminem, recalling the event on May 14, 2019, which she said plays like a video in my head. I wasn't there, but this also plays in my head. Once I heard, I can visualize Thomas in that office with her and CPS and him begging for help. It's heart-wrenching. It truly, truly is. Eminem added he said it directly to a Melissa Estrada, investigator of CPS. Thomas Valva was so brave that day because he said everything he needed to say. He said it to the person who needed to hear it. Thank you for telling us this name of this CPS investigator. Shame on you, Melissa Estrada, for not helping Thomas and his brother. Shame on you. Thomas died January 17, 2020, after prosecutors said his father and Pollina forced him to sleep in the unheated garage overnight in frigid temperatures. Pollina has pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder and child endangerment charges in Thomas's death and the alleged abuse of Thomas and his older brother, Anthony. Valva, 43, was convicted last year of murder in Thomas's death and is serving 25 years to life in a beautiful upstate prison near the Canadian border. Yeah, I sort of added some words there. It's not a beautiful prison. Of course, that's sarcasm, you guys. He's in a high security prison that gets horrible ratings, and he deserves every second of it. Prosecutors have said the pair acted in concert in connection with Thomas's death, forcing the boys to sleep in the garage in sub-freezing temperatures and denying them food. And Pollina showed a depraved indifference to whether Thomas lived or died. Pollina's attorney has argued that it was Valva who killed his son after hosing him off with cold water from an outside spigot after putting him in the garage and then placing him in a warm bath. Prosecutors have said that Pollina correctly identified Thomas as hypothermic on the morning of his death, but he did nothing to help the dying child. Okay, if nothing else, she's a horrific monster. She's a monster, step monster to these 3 boys. First of all, she's a step monster, and I'm hearing further on her 3 daughters, but I'm not going to get into that. She's a step monster to Thomas, Anthony, and Andrew. And then the day that Thomas died, whether or not she touched him, any of that stuff, she stood idly by and she let Michael hose him off, do all these other things. And from what we understand, he actually laid his hands on Thomas. And of course, he also later on claimed he was doing CPR on a couch. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a bunch of crap. I don't believe a damn word out of her mouth. And I cannot wait till she gets on the stand and prosecutors, Carrie Ann Kelly and her team, get a hold of Angela Pollina. Seriously, that is going to be a day for some major justice for Thomas and his brothers. Thomas and Anthony's mother, Justina Zuko Valva, and I hope that she can get rid of that Valva very soon, and I'm sure she wants to, has filed a $200 million lawsuit against Suffolk County and Child Protective Services and several CPS workers, including Estrada. God bless you, Justina. You deserve every penny, honey. Claiming, among other things, that CPS failed to properly train its employees. The suit is still pending. Suffolk County spokesperson Nicole Russo confirmed Friday that CPS still employs Estrada, who could not be reached for comment on Friday. Of course not. So she still has a job trying to ensure the safety of children. What is wrong with that picture, guys? Shame on her. Shame on her. I really hope it haunts her. I really do. According to Newsday's payroll database, Shada, who began working for the county on March 5th, 2017, was paid $59,104 in 2021. Eminem, who worked with both Thomas and Anthony during their time at the school from about 2017 to the beginning of 2020, testified they appeared emaciated and looked worn down and unkept when Thomas showed up to the school one day in the 2018 to 2019 school year wearing pull-ups, which were visually sticking out from his waist. Eminem said she found it extremely odd because he hadn't previously had bathroom issues. Eminem said she asked Thomas for an explanation. Thomas told me, because I'm a baby. I'm a baby. I need to sleep in a crib. What the hell? This is all Angela. This is all Angela Pollina's fault, and I know it. And you know what? Michael didn't do a damn thing to help his boys. And I hope that gives him nightmares every night he's in that cold cell upstate. Eminem said she called CPS one of several times. She sought help from the agency, but Thomas and Anthony were never removed from the Valva Pollina home. CPS, you have failed. New York, Suffolk County CPS, shame on you. Shame on you. And I'm tired of seeing this picture of her face there. I wish we had more pictures of her. No matter how much makeup she puts on, no matter how much hair color you put in, Angela, you can't cover up ugly. You can't cover up ugly. The jury also heard testimony from a plumber who was doing work at the Valva Pollina home in July 2019 and witnessed Pollina throw either Thomas or Anthony. He said he can't be sure which boy down the stairs. Ed Colicchio was having a sexual relationship with Pollina, according to testimony at Valva's trial last year, and his wife, Angela Colicchio, and I apologize, I'm saying their name incorrectly, Pollina's cousin, also testified. Angela said Thomas and Anthony were very sweet boys, well-mannered, and Pollina wore the pants in her relationship with Valva. We already figured that out. Michael may have been a cop, but he was a wuss, and he did anything Angela told him to do. He bowed at her feet he claims because he had nowhere to go and he was financially screwed. Okay? Bottom line, I don't care what his reasoning was. He let this woman do awful things to his boys, and he went right along with it. They're both guilty as sin. They both did everything together. And yeah, she was the one who initiated a lot of it. I completely believe that. What she said goes, she said. She was the boss in the relationship. And I'm sure we can all see that. And Thomas's third grade teacher, Kelly Wilson, also cried at times during her testimony, described how Thomas's parents didn't send cupcakes or other treats for his birthday or give him money for the school book fair. The jury saw a photo that Wilson took of Thomas in his Halloween costume that year, featuring the black and white stripes of an old school prison uniform. He seemed sad, said Wilson. He was dressed as a convict that day. That is sick. And who dressed him as a convict? Who did it? Angela. I'm going to assume it was probably Angela. It's probably this woman right here. I'm telling you, no matter how much makeup you put on, Angela, no matter how much hair dye you put in your hair, no matter whatever you do to yourself, you are ugly inside and out. Period. Let's look at Thomas's face while we chat. This little boy dealt with unbearable, horrible things in that house. It still sickens me that Michael's trial was last year, and we're still hearing new things. And I'll bet there's so much more that CPS has hidden in their files, and there's so much more stuff that Justina knows about that Suffolk County and the state refuse to go through. There's just massive amounts of abuse to these poor boys. You have emotional abuse, you've got physical abuse, you've got, any kind of abuse these boys could have possibly, had. They went through it. The bottom line is these were 3 young boys who should have been enjoying their childhood. They were elementary school kids. They're young kids. Thomas was 8 years old. He shouldn't have to worry about eating, especially when his family was able to put food on the table. He shouldn't have to worry about having a warm bed to sleep in, especially when the dog slept in a room that was temperature controlled. It is ridiculous and horrific, and I wish that Angela and Michael could have to spend at least one night in that same condition that they let little Thomas and Anthony sleep in. I really wish that would happen. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen. Our legal system, our correction system, the whole entire system is much more humane than the things and the treatments that they gave these boys. How sick. Truly, truly sickening. All right, well, let's check out this quick video from Newsday TV with some highlights from Friday's testimony.
Thomas Valva said he and his brother slept in the garage, that they were hosed down outside. School psychologist Renee Emmon testified Thomas told that directly to a CPS worker, but he wasn't helped. Emmon said Thomas was so brave that day because he said everything he needed to say to the person who needed to hear it. The frustration with CPS boiling over in her testimony and that of other staff from East Moriches Elementary School. Angela Pollina is charged in Thomas's death. Her ex-fiancé, former NYPD officer Michael Valva, was convicted of murder last year. Emmon testified that there was a, quote, lack of regard for Thomas's life. His third-grade teacher said when he came back from Christmas break in January of 2020, he looked very pale and very frail. The following week, just before his death, she said he was very red all over and limping. Pollina's attorney, Matthew Toohey.
The thrust of their testimony went back to 2018 and 2019. I'm focusing on what happened that day. Certainly, there's some narrative that's important about how the boys were hungry or may have been mistreated. A lot of it centers around the father and the father's actions, not my client.
Jurors were shown a photo of Thomas taken by his teacher the day before he died. It was for a school project. In it, he's giving a thumbs up, his hand a bright, bright red. It was the last day he ever attended school. I'm reporting from Riverhead, Cecilia Dowd for Newsday TV.
It just sickens me. It truly does. So it looks like we're caught up to today's testimony, and I don't know when the state's going to rest. I don't know how many more witnesses that they have coming up. I'll see if I can inquire on that this weekend, or if anybody knows, please drop me an email. I really would love to know. And man, I know I keep saying this, but I can't wait till Angela gets her ass on that stand. And I want Carrie Ann Kelly to cross-examine her. I really do. Man, I would pay to see that. Sadly, we can't sit in court and watch that. But my heart and my prayers are with Justina right now and her boys. And also with the fathers of the girls, the 3 girls that Angela has shared with. There's 2 fathers. There's twins. She's got twin daughters and another daughter. And thankfully, these children are in the hands of their biological fathers right now. And from what I understand, at least the youngest has disowned her mother. I don't blame the kid. How horrific. And at least one of those kids, at least one, witnessed what happened to little Tommy that morning. I can't even imagine. I really hope that somehow these girls and Thomas's brothers can make their way through this and come out on the other side in a better way. And I hope the rest of their lives is much more positive and uplifting than these years they had to spend in that home with Angela Pollina and Michael Valva. I truly do. All right, guys, that's all I've got for this one. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And let me know what you think in the comments. And again, if you have any information on the upcoming witnesses or anything else involving the trial, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to put my email on the screen right now, even though it's in the information of every single video. With that said and done, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. And most of all, stay safe.